What family secret did you suspect in childhood, but weren't able to confirm until adulthood? That was not a tomato plant growing in a pot that I couldn't tell my friends about. That my aunt did not die of an asthma attack in her sleep, but took her own life. She had been very depressed. As an adult, they admitted she purposely overdosed. As a child with asthma, I wish they had just told me the truth, because before I started to suspect, it was a lie. I was terrified that I was going to die too. My dad was in jail for a few months when I was around 8 years old. I was told he was at work, and he couldn't call us because it was a really big project. I heard my mom talking about him being locked up and thought he got trapped in the vents somewhere. He did hard work. It made sense to me at the time, I guess. When he came back, it was like nothing changed. Turns out he was a drug dealer. Grandpa was illiterate. Most of my grandma's kids were not her husband's. Granny got around. That my Uncle Joe, who always came to family gatherings, wasn't really an uncle, but my dad's poker buddy who just loved free food. I can't think of a damn thing because nobody can keep a fucking secret in my family. My mother's potato soup was so good because it was mainly butter and cream with a few pieces of potato. I remember, as a teenager, thinking at one point my parents probably haven't had sex in years. This past fall, my mom caught my dad men. He's gay. I always found it weird that out of all 4 grandparents, we always called one of them by his name. Turns out he was my dad's stepfather and a total piece of shit. When he died, which to this day I'm unsure when it happened, only that I was around 20, my parents didn't even bother to tell us. My dad was never a Navy SEAL, even though he spent my entire life telling me stories about it. It wasn't until he died that I found his DD-214. He was only in the Navy for 10 months and was discharged with under honorable conditions. He never fought in a war. He was never captured or shot. He never shot anyone. He was just a regular guy. I wish he knew that we never wanted him to be anything but our dad. I didn't suspect it per se, but I did spend much of my childhood wishing I had siblings and thinking, oh man, what if I was adopted, or my parents had a secret other family. Lo and behold, about 2-3 years ago, I found out I have 3 half-siblings. I'll never meet them for reasons too extensive to explain here, but the coincidence is hilarious. My aunt was super gay. I was an accident. My parents were already on the verge of a divorce, and my mom suddenly got pregnant despite having tried for over 4 years. I always felt like I was in the way, or not welcome. My feelings were confirmed when my dad threw me out right after high school graduation. My uncle was the result of a secret love affair my grandmother had. Also that my aunt on the other side was gay. My parents are married but hate each other. It really messed up my perspective on a healthy relationship. I have a cousin that just didn't look like his siblings. Found out a few years ago. It was confirmed he did not belong to my uncle. That my married parents rarely had sex. Confirmed by my mom last year when she randomly told me, while on a walk, that they hadn't had sex in 17 years. No, I didn't ask her. She just brought it up. Thanks, Mom. I'm in my 30s. My uncle was a made guy in the mob. My grandmother's amazingly delicious lemon meringue pie, which I assume she spent hours laboring over, was made with Jell-O lemon pie filling. Edit spelling. Well, everyone knew about the abuse that I endured as a child, and swept it under the rug. As an adult, repressed memories started to come back, and yeah, confirmed. Organized crime. No longer a thing. But my grandpa had an interesting childhood, to say the least. I'm still convinced at least one of my parents had another kid before they got married, and I have a half-sibling or 2 running around out there. Okay, I'm 55, so maybe not running exactly, but old person trotting. I knew that even though the woman who gave birth to me had written and promised that she would come back for me, would never actually show up. And I was right. She apparently moved to another state and had another child that she did manage to keep custody of. I haven't seen her since I was a baby. I don't remember her. My dad always told me that my birth mom has left us when I was 2 old. Then the story changed to she had died in a car crash, and that's why she wasn't around. I thought he was just trying to spare my feelings, but it still didn't make sense even to my kid brains. Forward a bunch of years, and I get an email from what turns out to be a cousin who found me on Ancestry DNA. My mother had apparently gone to Cali, then ended up in Florida where she got and died of the cancer. So most of whatever Dad told me was horse pucky. I was the result of the shot in the shotgun wedding. When I was a kid, my dad would go out for dinner every Friday with another family. It was explained to me that was his mistress' family, and Mum put her foot down. Only later when trying to compose a family tree did I realize all the kids from the other family were older than me. So many goddamn pedophiles. And they were still invited to the family cookouts. Fuck being silent. I don't talk to those branches of the family tree anymore, and let anyone and everyone know who to avoid if they get involved. I found the identity of my biological father. Nobody in my family would talk about who he was because my mother was 17 when I was born, and I was the family scandal back in the early 80s. I grew up thinking he didn't know about me or care about me if he did know. I was definitely wrong and found out my family threatened him to stay away from me. I did a lot of digging some years ago and found out that side of the family knew about me and would have loved me very much. I also had siblings. Really made me angry at the family I grew up with. My bio father also died before I got to meet him. That my parents had lived a different life before moving us to the middle of nowhere, Podunk Hicksville, when we were all kids. I was about 3 or 4, and that the life was the reason we moved. And that my dad isn't my biological dad. I suspected it when I was growing up. He was always super kind. Just had a feeling he wasn't, and his blood type with my mom's wouldn't have equated to mine, and as an adult, I was able to search up a bunch of stuff and hire a PI. I know it all, but they don't know I know. I'd never hurt them by telling them, but at least I know I'm not crazy.